Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelli Fox. Each week, Kelli will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelli Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched Astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelli each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox. Well, we are in the very last week of 2016. How about that? Has this year gone by so quickly? And what a year it has been. So this show, I'm going to be talking about what's ahead for 2017. I'm also going to be talking in next week's show, sign by sign. So this week's show, it's an overview of 2017 and what we can expect. And next week's show is going to be each sign and what each sign can expect in 2017. And I'm going to be talking through the highlights for each sign and what's coming up and key dates for each sign. And that is in next week's show, January 2nd. But this week's show, I'm going to be talking about what is going on in 2017, what makes 2017 different to 2016, and also for more about 2017, what's going on, what's happening, and your sign, what's ahead. Be sure to visit my website, theastrologer.com, to get your free forecast report. All you have to do is go to the menu bar, click on Astrology, then Reports, and you can get your free personalised forecast based off your date of birth, which is much more detailed than just a sun sign. So what is happening in 2017? A lot. Of course, I wasn't going to launch straight into this, but I think I will. Mercury retrograde, which I sort of feel a bit guilty every time I bring it up because it feels like I'm always bringing it up and talking about it constantly. But we start 2017 with a Mercury retrograde, and Mercury is currently retrograde right now. In Capricorn, and we start 2017 with Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, and then on the 4th it moves backwards into Sagittarius. So Mercury retrograde, I've talked about the past couple of shows. Mercury is a planet of communication, and when it's retrograde, which means it appears to be traveling backwards in its orbit around the sun, but of course technically it does not. So Mercury, planet of communication, appearing to be traveling backwards. So the energy of Mercury retrograde also travels backwards. So that means that any sort of communication might be misunderstood or misconstrued. And also a retrograde typically means that something reappears again from the past. So during this period, Mercury is retrograde in Capricorn. It went retrograde December 19th, and it will continue to retrograde through Capricorn and then into Sagittarius right through January 8th, right in time for that pretty heavy-duty week that we're going to have in January, around the full moon on January 12th, the full moon in Cancer. But it hooks in, it's not just a regular full moon, it's hooking in Uranus and Pluto and Jupiter. So I'll talk about that that week of the 9th of January and what to expect. So 2017, we start off with a Mercury retrograde. So many of us might be feeling like we're ready for the new year, anything is possible. Let's get on with our new beginning. And then with a Mercury retrograde, it's all about redoing something. So if there's anything that you have in your life that is outstanding, now would be the time to find some completion around something. So getting things wrapped up, particularly because 2016, I have been told by my numerologist friends, is the last year of a cycle. So 2016 is the 9th year of a 9-year cycle. 2017 is the start of a brand new cycle. It's a 1 year. I'm just quickly adding that up. It's a 1 year. So that means that 2017, according to numerologists, is the start of a brand new cycle. So it is really important to get things wrapped up as we come to the very last week of this year, 2016. It's really important to wrap things up. Don't have anything open-ended or outstanding, especially because we start 2017 with a Mercury retrograde. And that is typically about not only redoing things or being misunderstood, but things will resurface from the past. And this is more so for the cardinal signs, and the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So you may find that something reappears from the past that you need to redo. And it's really important. It might be a big pain in the neck, but it's going to be really crucial that you complete anything that's outstanding from the past before you can move forward into the new year and into this new cycle, this new 9-year cycle. So Mercury retrogrades throughout 2017. So the first one is when we start the year, and that's in Capricorn through Sagittarius. The next retrograde, Mercury retrograde, we have in 2017 is, I'm looking these up as I'm saying it just to double check the dates. The next Mercury retrograde cycle we have is April 9th through May 3rd. Yes, April 9th through May 3rd. We have Mercury retrograde in Taurus and Aries. So if you are a Taurus or an Aries, the Mercury retrograde, the second one that we have of the year, April 9th through May 3rd. Be careful during that time for any sort of misunderstandings, miscommunication, and particularly do not sign any contracts during a Mercury retrograde. And I have found over the years that if there is a contract that needs to be signed during this period and there is no way around it, I have found personally that the contract will have to be redone, or there's something that doesn't happen or pan out as I had hoped when signing a contract during a Mercury retrograde period. Also travel, of course, you know, these are just nice to have. And, you know, life goes on, and sometimes we have to do these things during a Mercury retrograde. Travel is a big no-no, or planning or booking travel especially. But if you have to do it, you have to do it. And it's never really what you think it's going to be. Mercury retrograde does have this reputation of wreaking havoc for good reason. But I've always found with astrology, it's like you think it's going to happen in one way, but it happens in a different way. Always within the guidelines or the boundaries of the meaning of the planet or the sign, but never in a way that you anticipate. And I sometimes think, particularly with the Mercury retrograde, is that because that does represent misunderstanding, so it's sort of like a double whammy, if that makes any sense at all. So the third Mercury retrograde period is between August 12th and September 5th, and the Mercury retrograde at that time happens in the sign of Virgo. That's interesting because Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. It's also the ruler of Gemini. So you'd think in one way, well, maybe that Mercury retrograde won't be so bad because it's in its own sign. Everything should be totally okay. But sometimes when a planet is retrograde in its own sign, it's worse. So it will all depend on where this energy sits in your astrological chart to see what sort of an effect it has on you. And this Mercury retrograde during August, retrograde in Virgo, primarily will affect the mutable signs, more challenging for the mutable signs. And the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. So just be careful during the Mercury retrograde during August. And then we have the fourth and final Mercury retrograde for 2017. And those dates are December 2nd through December 22nd. So the fourth and final Mercury retrograde is through December and through Sagittarius. We're going to take a short break, and after the break, I will continue with what's ahead 2017, so stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox, talking about 2017. And on tonight's show, I'm giving you an overview of 2017, giving you the highlights of what we can expect for the coming year, which is the start of a brand new cycle. And next week's show, be sure to tune in because I'm going to be giving the highlights for each of the 12 signs. So tonight it's an overview of 2017 and next week it's a highlight for each of the signs. Just before the break, I was talking about Mercury, the planet of communication, and its retrograde periods. This year, or this coming year, 2017, we will have 4 Mercury retrograde periods. We're currently in the first one. So the first one started on December 19th through January 8th. The second is April 9th through May 3rd. And then during August 12th through September 5th. And the fourth and final Mercury retrograde period is December 2nd through the 22nd. And of course, when Mercury is retrograde, it's usually necessary to reformulate any sort of plan or reconsider decisions. That was a typical Mercury retrograde moment. And so take those dates down and remember during that time, try not to book any travel or sign any contracts, although life does go on. So it is what it is. And speaking of retrograde, also during 2017, Venus, the love planet of love, money, friendships, socialization, anything that we find beautiful, Venus will be retrograde, which is unusual. It's a planet that turns retrograde the least amount of times. It will be turning retrograde, or it turns retrograde only about once every 18 months. So that's not very often compared to the other planets which retrograde more often. And just as an example, the outer planets are retrograde about 40% of the time in their orbit around the Sun. So Venus, the planet of love and money, will be retrograde between March 4th and April 15th. And it turns retrograde in Aries. It turns retrograde at 13 degrees Aries, and it will turn direct April 15th at 27 degrees Pisces. So it retrogrades through Aries and then into Pisces. So when Venus is retrograde, here's the positive spin on it. So when Venus is retrograde, couples that are experiencing difficulty can benefit from this period because it's a great time to speak less and listen more. Now that's interesting because I'm just checking my calendar here, and is there a crossover? Yes, there is a crossover with Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde. And this crossover happens April 9th through the 14th. So the week of April 9th is definitely a time to bring up, if you're in a relationship particularly, bring up issues from the past that have not been resolved and get them out onto the table. And if you can work through those things, particularly that week of April 9th, that's a great time to move forward in your relationship. It's sort of like a time, the week of April 9th is a time of makeup or breakup. And this is especially so, I'm just looking, what signs will be affected the most by this? Pisces, Taurus, Aries, and let me see here. I'd say Libra as well, because Venus rules Libra, it rules Taurus. And with Mercury, Mercury will be in Taurus retrograde during the week of April 9th, and Venus at that. So the week of April 9th is a very good time to really lay it all out in your relationship and either resolve the issues or move forward, especially for those signs. So as I said, it's a great time, a great week then to speak less, listen more, be more compassionate, be more receptive and supportive with your partner, and put an end to loud arguments and bitter recriminations. Make the most of this harmonious energy. Both parties have to be fully committed to be kinder and gentler toward each other. That's particularly when Venus is retrograde. So it's an uncommon thing. It only happens once every 18 months. Venus, the planet of love and money, will be retrograde between March 4th and April 15th. So it is a time to not get married. And I can't even begin to tell you how many couples I've heard of over the years who get married when Venus is retrograde. And everything's done and dusted. So it's like, it's pretty hard when I'm approached by couples wanting to get married and they basically give me their date and this is basically it. We've paid the deposit, we've sent the invites. It's really hard to sometimes put a positive spin on things like that. But astrology, it's not all one-sided. It's not all doom and gloom. There is always a positive and a not-so-positive side to most things. But generally, when Venus is retrograde, it really is not a good time to get married or pop the question or start a new relationship. So just be aware of what's happening at that time for you in your relationships. And with Venus turning retrograde at 13 degrees Aries, anybody who's a cardinal sign, particularly if they have any cardinal planets around the 13th degree, take note. Don't make any major decisions in your relationships when Venus is retrograde. And that's between March 4th and April 15th. And the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So it's not a good time to start a new relationship because really the key words of Venus retrograde is relationships are meant to go backwards. Although it is a good time to work things out within the relationship itself. All righty, that's Venus retrograde. Also for 2017, Jupiter, the planet of luck and good fortune, will continue moving through Libra. Jupiter moved into Libra in September, and it will stay there for a year. The cycle of Jupiter is that it stays in one sign for an approximate 12-month period. So every year, Jupiter moves into a new sign, and Jupiter has a 12-year cycle. So when Jupiter is in Libra, which it has been since September, it's all about relationships. So it's really interesting because I just talked about Venus retrograde in Aries, and then at the same time, Jupiter will be in Libra, which is also about relationships. So I'd have to say that Venus retrograde during the period of what I just mentioned, March 4th through April 15th, at the same time, Jupiter, planet of luck and good fortune, in the sign of relationships, and that's Libra. So that will be a very pivotal time for relationships, definitely. So when Jupiter, the planet of luck and good fortune, also the planet of expansion, moves through cooperative Libra, relationship-focused Libra, right through October 9th. This is definitely a great time to focus on business and romantic partnerships. And basically, anytime Jupiter appears in a favourable way, it's a time to broaden your horizons. And it's not just physically, but mentally as well. Jupiter is a planet of travel. It's the planet of study, in-depth study. It's basically expanding your world, intellectually, physically, emotionally, whatever way that is. Whatever Jupiter touches, it expands, it emphasizes, it amplifies, and it could be in a positive way or a negative way. It will just depend on where this planet influences the other planets in your chart. And in your chart, that means the time you were born, the date and time you were born, a snapshot was taken of the heavens, and that snapshot is where the planets were at that given time of your birth. And so that's what creates your chart, your astrology chart, your astrology chart, also known as your horoscope, different to a daily horoscope, but it's your astrology chart, is what I refer to throughout probably nearly every show, and what I talk about with where the planets are at any given time and how that relates to you. Now, if you've never had your astrology chart done, I would say now would be a great time to do that. And how you can do that for free, visit my site, theastrologer.com, and click on the top menu bar, Astrology. Under there, you'll see Chart Wheel. There you can get a free astrology chart wheel, and then you can see where your planets are. And what I talk about in my shows week to week is where the planets are. And then it'll make a bit more sense on how the planets are affecting you. So Jupiter, the planet of expansion, planet of luck and good fortune, in Libra this year. So we're going to take a short break. After the break, I will continue with 2017 and what's happening. Stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox, talking about what we can expect in 2017 and the highlights of the coming year. Just before the break, I was talking about luck and good fortune. Jupiter, the planet of luck and good fortune, is in Libra until October 9th. So when it's in Libra, it's all about relationships. So Jupiter will be turning retrograde, as all the planets do, from February 5th through June 9th. And so what that means is that this expansive energy of Jupiter, the energy turns inward. And then during this phase, we're challenged to take stock of our own beliefs and ideals. And it's going to question or have many of us question ourselves and be honest about whether the lives we're living truly match our cherished beliefs. And this will be especially so when it comes to our relationships. Now, I talked earlier in the show about love planet Venus turning retrograde, and that is March 4th through April 15th. This coincides with the Jupiter retrograde, all about relationships, because Jupiter is currently and will be in Libra through October 9th. So you have these two planets, both at this time relationship-focused, and then there's also that crossover with the Mercury retrograde during the week of April 9th. So the week of April 9th looks to be very interesting when it comes to relationships, particularly for the cardinal signs, and that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. But the week of April 9th, you've got Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, and Jupiter retrograde, focused primarily around relationships. So this is definitely a time, don't plan any sort of romantic vacation. It's really a time to work through any issues that we have in our relationship. So during this Jupiter retrograde, that's February 5th through June 9th, many of us might find ourselves reviewing our partnerships, and that's both personal and professional. We might start pondering important questions such as, what's working between us and our partner or our business partner and what isn't. And also, does the partnership or does the relationship match with our deeply held values? Because Jupiter is all about beliefs and values. And perhaps most importantly, are you bringing everything you can to the table to help make this partnership a success? So it's a good time to not only think about our relationship, but what are we providing to the relationship? Because of course, any sort of relationship takes more than one person. Also, during this Jupiter retrograde period, if you have felt lately as if you're stuck in a bad luck phase or a bit of a rut, the honest answers to these questions may reveal that you've been the obstacle blocking your own path. Fancy that. And that happens when we aren't living according to our truest philosophies. Our lives can get out of whack. Maybe you've been spending too much money or socializing too much instead of focusing on your responsibilities. And when Jupiter is in Libra, it is about pleasure. And as I said, Jupiter is the planet of excess. But, on the other hand, it's also about balance and justice and harmony, especially in our relationships. So when something is out of balance, many of us during this time, especially with Mercury and Venus retrograde in April as well, we might be feeling it quite keenly. The Mercury retrograde happens in Taurus, so it does give a bit of stability. It's not just all up and leave and start something new. It is about looking at the long term as well. So that's Jupiter retrograde. So that's many of us during that time, February through June, we will be figuring out the balance in our life and focus on living a life we truly believe in. So it'll be mainly around our relationships and what's important and what isn't. Many of us might find that There might be time to move on because we've outgrown the relationship or something's not working for us. It's not a time to hang on. Okay, the next highlight of 2017, of course, are the eclipses. Eclipses are always a highlight in every year. Typically, we have 2 lots of eclipses, usually 6 months apart. And our first eclipse of 2017 is February 10th. And February 10th, we have a lunar eclipse in Leo at 22 degrees Leo. Interesting, because that's right on my sun. So we have a lunar eclipse on February 10th at 22 degrees Leo, and this will be more influential for the fixed signs, and the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. This lunar eclipse on February 10th will be affecting you more so, or anybody that has planets in fixed signs. So the lunar eclipse in Leo is all about, are you getting credit where you deserve to receive the credit? Is the spotlight on you? Are you feeling overlooked? Are you feel like somebody else is taking your glory? Are you leading a team of people or a group of people? Or you should be leading a group or a team of people. It's also about helping others, showing compassion or support for the underdog. That's definitely an energy of this lunar eclipse in Leo. Maybe even a glamorous party or upbeat outing that could mark the end of a highly social phase or the start of a highly social phase. Also, instead of spending time in groups during this time, some of us might start focusing on matters of the heart. And again, it's about romance. So 2017's, it looks like it's shaping up to be all about relationships, new beginnings, particularly around relationships. Then 2 weeks later, on February 26th, we will have a solar eclipse that will occur in Pisces. Now, solar eclipses are all about new beginnings, and it's not just a regular new moon, it's a supercharged new moon. So a solar eclipse is a supercharged new moon that will occur in Pisces, and the degree of this solar eclipse towards the beginning, 8 degrees Pisces. So we have a solar eclipse at 8 degrees Pisces on February 26th. So this is a great time, especially for the water signs, and that's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. It's a great time for people to rely on their intuition to make decisions. Following conventional wisdom could result in missed opportunities and lackluster work performances. So this is a wonderful time to not just rely on your intuition, especially if you're a water sign, but really ramp it up, amp it up, ramp it up. It's like use your psychic ability. If there's some way that you can enhance your psychic abilities, then around this time would be the time to do so. It's also a time for any sort of spiritual pursuit, meditation, or getting back into practice with your faith, especially with Jupiter there. I was just talking about Jupiter being, is it retrograde at that time? So being retrograde at that time, it's like getting back in touch with what's important to you on a spiritual level, and hooking into the source, like connecting in, and manifestation is another key word as well for a Pisces solar eclipse. Pisces is such an intuitive sign, very psychic, very compassionate, very spiritual. Pisces Pisces is the connector of the world. Pisces is the shoulder that we need to cry on. If you have any Pisces in your life, you'll know what I'm talking about. They're the friend that's always there, sometimes to their own detriment. So the message of this solar eclipse on February 26th is show compassion and help others, and use your intuition and practice not just meditation, but practice manifestation. It's like this is a great year to do that. The solar eclipse represents brand new beginnings, and at this time it's all about manifesting what you want during this next cycle, this next 9-year cycle, according to numerology. The other thing that it ties in with is the Chinese New Year, which is not part of the astrology that I do, but it's definitely worth a mention and something that I always take note of. And the Chinese New Year is January 28th, and we'll be moving into the year of the rooster. So there's all these new beginnings, the Chinese New Year, January 28th, and then according to the Western astrology that I'm talking to you about tonight, that I practice, is the solar eclipse on the 26th of February in Pisces. Then the next set of eclipses that we have for 2017 are in August. And on August 7th, we have a lunar eclipse, and that's a lunar eclipse in Aquarius, and that is all about working with others, being part of a group, a democracy, being humanitarian, being part of a team, taking the helm of an organisation and working with others during this time. We're going to take a short break, and after the break, I will continue with the eclipses of 2017, so stay tuned.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millicers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance will come in with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox, talking about what to expect this coming year, 2017. It's the start of a new beginning, and I can feel it. Can you feel it as well? 2016 is definitely about endings. According to my numerologist friends, they've been telling me that 2016 is a year for completion and for endings. And it's interesting because as we move from one year to the next, we're doing it through a Mercury retrograde period. And Mercury retrogrades are about misunderstandings and miscommunication, but they're also about things coming up from the past that we need to complete or redo before we can move forward. So it's really interesting that we're moving from one cycle to the next, one 9-year cycle. So this is a 9-year, which is the final year of a cycle. And then moving into a 1 year, 2017 is a 1 year, and it represents the beginning of a new 9-year cycle. But as we cross over from 1 year to the next, we do it in a Mercury retrograde period. And so what that means is that anything that's open-ended or hasn't been completed, we will be called upon to complete and finish something. And anything that's long-term, especially because this Mercury turned retrograde in Capricorn, and so it's like Capricorn is all about long-term thinking. So something that might have been hanging around for a while and we just couldn't bring ourselves to face it or deal with it, this is the time to do it, especially if it's something that's been around for a while or is a long-term thing. So we move from a 9-year to a 1 year and through a Mercury retrograde period. So before the break, I was talking about eclipses and what to expect. And so the first lot of eclipses this year, which really kick off the new beginning or the new cycle, is February 26th, when we have a solar eclipse in Pisces, and that is all about new beginnings. A solar eclipse is a supercharged new moon, and new moons always represent new beginnings. But the key or the trick to a new moon is you can't just launch straight into a new beginning or a new thing or a new relationship or a new project or a new whatever it is until you have the ending. So it's like you have to wrap things up before you can move ahead. And solar eclipses really force us to do that. So new beginnings are great around a solar eclipse, especially because 2017 is a number 1 year, according to numerology, and more so for the water signs. So this is good news if you're a water sign, and that's Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, having a new beginning starting around February 26th. Now, with eclipses, they don't typically happen right on the day. Eclipses unfold over months, weeks and months after the actual eclipse occurs. So if you're a water sign or have planets in water signs, you may find that your new beginning unfolds on or around the 26th. It could be a couple of weeks before, a few months after, but it's an excellent time to implement new practices. The other eclipse during February is on the 10th, and it is a lunar eclipse in Leo. So this is all about getting credit where credit is due. It's a time to shine, and that's especially true for the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Now, the second lot of eclipses, because typically in a calendar year we have 2 lots of eclipses that are usually 6 months apart. And so the second lot of eclipses are set for August. And the first one is a lunar eclipse on August 7th that falls in Aquarius. So what that means is that it's all about connecting with others, maybe reconnecting with cherished friends or groups. But definitely this is not a time to be working solo or for being solo. This will be a time to focus on humanitarian efforts or be part of a group, maybe joining up with like-minded individuals who want to make a difference in the world. And it's definitely more about global thinking or bigger thinking rather than thinking of oneself, working within a team. And as I said just before the break, it's about maybe even taking the helm of an organisation who will offer a welcome distraction from self-interested thoughts. Around this eclipse on August 7th, it's not a time to think of oneself. Also in August, we have a solar eclipse in Leo that occurs 2 weeks later on August 21st. And the degree of that eclipse, because it's the very end of the sign, is nearly 29 degrees, the last degree of Leo. And it's a wonderful time for new beginnings, because solar eclipses are about new beginnings, and especially so for the fire signs, but in particular, people born at the very end of the fire signs, so that's Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. It's a great time for you in particular to start new beginnings. But as I've just been saying, you can't have a new beginning unless you have an ending. So that is they're the eclipses of 2017, February and August. And finally, the other news or the other headline of 2017 is Saturn, the planet of restriction, will continue its journey through Sagittarius all year through December 18th. And then after December 18th, it moves into Capricorn, where it will stay for 2.5 years after that. So when Saturn, which it's been in all throughout 2016, it's been in Sagittarius, it's a great time for getting an advanced degree or going on an overseas trip, publishing any sort of written material. There may be challenges around that, but if you put in the hard work, then the results will come. The key with Saturn, any sort of Saturn transit, particularly a tough one, is patience. It's always about having patience. You can't rush the process. Don't get discouraged if you're unable to meet goals easily or quickly. It really is about hard work, focus, discipline. That will pay off definitely eventually when Saturn is involved. Then once Saturn moves into ambitious Capricorn, December 19th on for the following 2.5 years, any sort of matter involving career or social status, any sort of long-term planning, that's a great use of when Saturn is in Capricorn. Saturn is the planetary ruler of Capricorn, so there is something to say that things in some ways fit together more than being disjointed. So that's a planetary overview for 2017, the main highlights. And as I said, next week's show, I'm going to run through each sign and give the highlights for each sign. Now, before we end the show, I want to give you your weekly horoscope. So for the final week of 2016, what can we expect? Well, let me see here. The final week of 2016. Well, the year ends on a thoughtful note for many. We've had a rare Jupiter-Uranus opposition that brings more hope for successful breakthroughs. And looking ahead through 2017, there's more hope than maybe stalemate like before. Mars teams up with Neptune. So it might be a bit sentimental or nostalgic feel to New Year's Eve. But also this week on Wednesday, we have a Capricorn new moon. So that really is a wonderful time to make New Year's resolutions. So be sure to have your resolutions ready because astrologically everything points to it. So if you're an Aries, a fresh attitude towards personal relationships helps you heal wounds or attract new love as this year fades. Being less selfish and more considerate of others should also pave the way forward for a new career opportunity. If you're a Taurus, let go of your need for order and allow the week to unfurl. And if you can't control time or many of your circumstances, but what is within your control is your attitude. If you're a Gemini, what you want conflicts with what you think you should or ought to do. Your desires contrast with your responsibilities. But with some careful thought now, you should be able to craft a more win-win path as you head into your new year. If If you're a Cancer, your work-life balance is a priority and it will remain so into 2017. Hard choices become easier if you get the understanding and cooperation of your loved ones. Don't be afraid to have a difficult conversation. If you're a Leo, take this chance to deal with an educational need or lack in your life. If there's some extra training which would benefit you, swallow your pride and sign up to it. If you're a Virgo, what you thought was secure turns out to be on shakier ground. This could be a shock, but stay calm to navigate these tricky waters. Be adaptable and flexible. If you're a Libra, standing on your own 2 feet is a key theme now, and you'll need to keep asserting your independence into next year. Find your own identity. Within a relationship, give yourself some space as a unique individual. If you're a Scorpio, a lot of psychic influences swirl around you as this year closes. It's a fantastic time to develop your spirituality or to join a spiritual group of some kind. Seek out like-minded souls to help you learn and progress into 2017. If you're a Sag, beware of the temptation to drown your sorrows. If you're a Capricorn, are you who your image says you are? And if you're an Aquarius, consider sharing your knowledge. And a Pisces, most of your New Year resolutions are financial ones, but think a little deeper. That's the show this week. Stay tuned. Tune in next week to get your highlights, the highlights of 2017 for your sign. Have a great week and speak to you then.